Okay, pretty sure we're live. Believe we're good. All right. Okay, I believe we are live. I think I got everything set up correctly. Um, Welcome back to day three, final day of the NFL Draft Fanatic Draft Professor Epic Mock 25. Pretty eventful first 2 days for Tennessee. Um, Pretty happy with the haul we came out of on day two. Not quite as many day three picks as I would have liked. Um, had to wheel and deal a little bit at the end of yesterday, but I can I can cope with what we got. Having audio problems, I guess. Not sure why this keeps happening, but got about how long till this thing kicks off? Not too long, about 4 or 5 minutes till we kick this thing off. We'll get this first pick anywhere up as the second pick of day three. So all right, making this first pick. Or second pick, I should say, on day three. I traded away 103, which was originally my pick yesterday, to Cincinnati to go up and get Ashton Gelati, the edge out of Louisville. So, with this pick here, insiders are telling me Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon, is going to go at 103 right here, which would be on the table for the Titans at 104. But with him off the table, this is really between Jonas Sanker, the safety out of Virginia, and the Xavier Restrepo, the receiver out of Miami, who we all know has the former connection with Cam Ward. So I think with me, with my next pick not being until, well, I guess I'll have 120, but I'm planning to go a different direction with that pick. So for me, my next real pick that's not set in stone for me is probably 179. So we're gonna be comfortable here for a while, and I think I feel better about leaving safety with a hole rather than receiver. Um, so for me, I think this pick is probably going to be Xavier Restrepo. And we will get ready to submit this pick as soon as the Bengals and my guy Parker Blake gets his pick in. Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of spots I could go with 104. I feel like Restrepo's the best, but it's gonna hurt to pass on Sanker. Yeah, man, Nick Nash going at 102. Like we ended with two really big surprise picks to me, honestly. Jack Sawyer and Nick Nash rounding out day two was pretty surprising to me. Uh, we've had like no running backs go in this draft. The top five guys are gone, and past that, we really have not had any guys go. Like Damian Martinez, my guy, my running back five is still on the board. I would love to take him with this pick, but I just feel like the roster has too many holes. I probably need to wait until later today to address running back. I will be taking running back today, no doubt, but I think it's probably just going to be later. Um, so again, we await the pick here. And yeah, so just waiting on this pick, which insiders tell me will be Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon, and then we will submit this pick for Xavier Restrepo, reignite that Miami connection in Nashville. Bring in the second receiver of this draft. Really fully revamp that receiver room. Um, and we're feeling pretty good. It's weird. Let's see, how many picks have we made? Three so far, right? Ward, Princely, Horton, Gelati, so four. We're about to be 5 picks into the draft, and I've only taken QBs, receivers, and edges. So, um, pretty pretty one-dimensional draft so far. Only addressing those two positions of need, but guys fell that I believe are really talented at those spots. So, um, I have. I don't really have a problem with that. If we're going to leave this with only a couple of positions, that's just how it falls. We really want to put as much emphasis as we can on supporting Cam Ward. The revamp of the offensive line and free agency. Receiver's really the only thing left there. I've already said I'm going to try and get a running back later today. So, and there is the pick has officially been submitted. Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon. My sources were correct. All right, and the pick is in with the 104th pick in the 2025 Draft Professor Epic Mock 25. Titans select Xavier Restrepo, not Xavier Watts, like they just put in the spreadsheet. Restrepo out of Miami. There we go. So, 104 picks into this thing. We've added Torrey Horton and Xavier Restrepo to the receiver room. Have Calvin Ridley playing your Z, Torrey Horton playing your X, and Xavier Restrepo playing your slot. I feel pretty good about where this offense is right now. Like I said, I still want to add another kind of big body between the tackles running back to complement the running back room. But overall, I feel like we kind of revamped the offense. The secondary is still a little shaky. You still need a true inline wide tight end. Still could use a linebacker. But, like I said, big hole at safety. You could use an outside corner. Some spots you really like to go. But at the end of the day, I felt like I needed to shed off some capital to go up and get Ashton Gelati. He fell really far. I'm not upset at that trade by any means. So I am more than happy with that pick. Now we're gonna have to. Well, I guess we pick it again at 120. Then we're gonna have to get comfortable because we go another like 50 picks without picking. But and Kyle Kennard comes in at pick 105 to the Giants. Edge rusher out of South Carolina. What I mean, I don't dislike that pick really. I know they needed some edge help there. You've got Brian Burns obviously is the main guy. Kayvon Thibodeau is still a contributing piece there, but probably not the one they expected him to be, taking him in the top 5. So you add in Kyle Kennard as a rotational guy. I think Kennard is probably one of the highest floor edge rushers in this draft class. You're gonna have a guy that's extremely technically advanced. Got a great ghost move, one of the best in this class. Very good hands as a pass rusher. But I do think he's an extremely limited athlete, and I don't know how much room there is to really develop his game. So you're probably stuck with what you got. The rookie Kyle Kennard is the same Kyle Kennard you're going to get throughout his career. But, again, we're at the top of day 3 here. You're just looking for starters. And I think Kyle Kennard is a guy that can really be a solid contributing rotational piece, starter at edge in this league for a pretty long time. Again, he doesn't really rely on his tools or his athleticism to really win. As a pass rusher, he just is so technically advanced with his hands that he gave Will Campbell a day with that ghost move again, because he's just so technically advanced with his hands, and I don't dislike that pick at all. And then the next one comes in right after at 106, Washington taking Kobe Bryant, the corner out of Kansas, who I think probably will be a day two guy in less than 2 weeks. We're 12 days away from this draft. I think in the actual draft. And yeah, I think he's really good. I think he's a day two player. I think, obviously there's size concerns with him only being 165, 170 pounds on the outside. A lot of people plug him in as a nickel immediately. And the picks are flying in, my goodness. But I think he's so violent and such a clear competitor on tape, and I think he's really sticky in man coverage. Pretty stark in press coverage for being that size. I think he's a guy that can play outside as an outside corner for me personally. Then the Jets go and take R.J. Harvey, the running back out of UCF, who I have a lot lower. But once you get past the top 5 running backs, there's a lot of variance in these rankings because this is such a good class. R.J. Harvey's a blistering speed guy, one of the fastest running backs in this class. Super explosive athlete, always a home run threat. I didn't love the vision. That's why he's a little bit lower for me. I'm kind of a vision purist when it comes to running backs. I think his solution was kind of just to outrun everybody to the sideline again at UCF, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that at the NFL. But, you're taking a swing on the athleticism here early on day 3, and the Bills send in Noel Williams, the DB out of California. And that is one of my favorite picks of this draft so far. I think he's a day 2 guy. He's a borderline top 50 guy for me. I love Noel Williams, one of my favorite corners in this draft. A guy that's a pure outside guy to me. Very, very long, lanky, physical corner. Long arms, very, very strong. One of the best press coverage corners in this class. Great in man coverage. I don't know that I love him in zone as much. But as a man corner, he's going to punch a hole through somebody's collarbone at the line of scrimmage. Not quite as active at the catch point as I'd like him to be, but he's sticky in man coverage. I think he's got good instincts. Very, very good ball skills. He had like 7, 8 interceptions in his last year at Cal, so very, very productive corner. Again, not that I really factored that in, but it's a nice bonus. And we await the Eagles pick at 109. We'll see where they go. They were active on the phone lines yesterday. They traded a pretty good bit. So we will await that pick. All right, pick is tweeted out, and we are waiting on this pick still. And looks like we've had a trade. Jacksonville is coming up to 110. So big move up for Jacksonville. We'll see where they are looking to go right here, who they're trading up for, who their guy is. See how they're feeling. Looks like the Eagles GM is active, so we should get this pick any second now. Says Jets right here, but they are trading out of this pick from what I've seen. We got a lot of picks to get through today. We're going to be here for quite a while. Got about, let's see, another 140-ish, 140 and change picks to get through. Much shorter pick timer today, only 2 minutes per pick. So we're going to start flying through these. It looks like the pick is in for Philadelphia. It's going to be Gunnar Helm, the tight end out of Texas. That's a great pick. Philadelphia, they got Dallas Goedert on the way out. Gunnar Helm, a guy that didn't test very well. But I think he's a guy that can come in and immediately plug and play as a starter. I don't think his ceiling is very high, but he's a guy with a pretty high floor, going to come in and just be an immediate mid-level starter, in my opinion. Pretty lackluster blocker, but the tools are there, and you saw some flashes, so I think that's something you can develop up, especially with the coaching staff there in Philadelphia. Solid at the catch point, good separator, nice with the ball in his hands, just kind of a jack of all trades, good at a lot of things. Not the most athletic tight end in the world, but Philadelphia can make that work. They got Johnny Wilson, who they've kind of got playing that power slot receiving tight end role anyway, who they drafted last year. So not too bad there. And then Jacksonville, they've corrected that, is now on the clock. We will see where they go. You'd think this pick would be in because they traded up for it, but we haven't quite seen it yet. All right, still waiting on this pick. The amount of trade outs we've had in this draft, um, where like, people trading up and not making the pick immediately is kind of strange to me. But, you know, still waiting on that. Oh, and the pick is in. It is David Walker, the edge out of Central Arkansas. That's a great pick. I think that's great value. Jacksonville has really killed this draft, unfortunately. They have really nailed this. I mean, so far they've left with what? Travis Hunter, Xavier Watts, Jalen Noel, and David Walker. I mean, those are four of my favorite players in this entire draft. David Walker continues to fly way under the radar because he played in that D2 competition level, but just an absolutely dominant player at the FCS level. Damn near unblockable. Great run defender, extremely powerful edge rusher, one of the best speed to powers I've ever watched. Very, very short arms, so if you're like a measurables team, maybe not the best guy for you. But, um, incredibly productive, good run defender, extremely athletic laterally, really explodes between gaps. Sometimes kind of comes in out of control when rushing the passer, but I think it was just a result of him winning so fast at the D2 level. Had a great Senior Bowl, stacked up well against competition. So we will see where the Carolina Panthers go with pick 111. And waiting on this pick to come in. They have taken. Who have they taken? They took Jihad Campbell in the first round. They took Josiah Stewart in the second. Who did they take in the third? Jack Besh was the third round pick. Pretty good draft for them as well. And they rounded out in the fourth round with Quincy Riley, DB out of Louisville. Another guy who had a great Senior Bowl week. Really popped to a lot of people down there. Former track star. Really, really shows with his long speed on the boundary. Not the most physical guy in the world. Some people see him as a nickel. I think he can stay on the outside. Just probably not a guy you want in true like press man coverage. Maybe he's a bail guy. But like I said, extremely good athlete, good instincts. Was dealing with a pretty nasty injury in 2024, so you kind of saw a lack of athleticism or lack of explosion that was definitely there on the 2023 tape. So I think I probably would have waited a little bit longer for him, but I don't think it's crazy to take him early day 3 at all. For a team that needs secondary help, opposite of J.C. Horn, the Chiefs back on the clock at 112. They have traded back quite a few times in this draft. And they have done pretty well for themselves. They traded back out of the first round, took Siobhan Revel, got Alec Manor at the turn in the third round, got Landon Jackson, and I believe they took one more player in the late third last night. Yes, it was Ty Robinson, D tackle out of Nebraska. That was a little bit of a reach to me, but I know they really need some interior defensive line help opposite of Chris Jones. And we had a crazy run on defensive tackles. I think we had like 16 or 17 go by the end of day 2, which I usually see that many in a full draft, much less in the first 100-ish picks. So we'll see where they decide to go here after addressing those positions. It still feels strange they haven't drafted an offensive lineman to me. Anthony Belton is still on the board somehow. I think that's pretty crazy to me. Have we? Did I miss the pick here? Did it come in? Kansas City Chiefs take Dylan Sampson. I did miss it. Running back out of Tennessee. Finally seeing the run of running backs here, and the next pick is immediately in with the Chargers taking Bashal Tutin out of West Virginia. Hello, I can't speak. Virginia Tech. That's the right school. Too many schools in Virginia. Dylan Sampson, well, another guy I'm lower on, another former track athlete, running back. A lot of those in this class. Super explosive, the long speed really jumps off the tape. But with me, it's the same worry I have with a lot of the running backs I'm lower on in this class. It's just vision issues. I don't think his eyes are very good. And I think he's in probably one of the easier offenses for running back in this entire country because, Tennessee, they're infamous for those really spread out wide sets where the defense is already spread wide open, and it should be really easy for a running back to read those lanes. He still struggles to do that quite a bit. So that's why he's a little bit lower for me, but you're taking a shot on the athleticism. I don't dislike that pick at all for the Chiefs. And the Chargers get Bashal Tutin, another combine riser, really, really high on a lot of people's boards recently. And again, I'm a wide zone, outside zone purist, so I really like Bashal Tutin. As a runner, I think the vision could be better, but one of the most explosive athletes in this entire class. Got a great route tree. I think he's a good separator at running back, but I think the hands are a complete disaster. He's had major drop issues, along with having the worst ball security issues of any running back in this class. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but he had an absurd amount of fumbles the past 2 years. Disastrous ball security problems. But we've shown like Jahmyr Gibbs had those coming out, and obviously that hasn't plagued him that much in the league. That's an easy-ish issue to fix in the league. So guys as athletic as Tutin don't come around that often. And the next pick is in for Carolina. They take Jonas Sanker, the safety out of Virginia, who we were discussing at pick 103 for the Titans, or 104, excuse me. Sanker, I think, is another guy that probably should have been gone on day 2. I think the safety drop-off kind of starts now that he's gone. Jonas Sanker is just about as prototypical of a box safety as there is. Massive frame. Great box player. Pretty good athlete for his size, not the smoothest guy. But as far as straight line speed goes, they don't come around that often for his size. Great player in coverage, smart eyes, quick trigger in the run game, gets downhill quick, a lot of stopping power, good run defender, as well as having good eye discipline, solid in zone coverage. And that's a good pick for Carolina, who also has a needed safety. And as Tennessee comes up again at pick 120 here, got about 5 picks left. This pick, I don't envision him going in these next couple of picks, so I feel comfortable go ahead and saying it. This is going to be Miles Frazier, the offensive lineman out of LSU. One of my favorite players in this entire draft class. 3rd round grade for me. Another guy who had a great senior role. I think he's probably the best offensive lineman on that LSU line, if you want me to be honest with you. But I think he's at guard. He fits everything that both Callahans want. Bill Callahan is infamous for having the size thresholds at offensive line and standing at 6'6", 315-ish pounds, 330. The weights were all over the place at the Senior Bowl and the Combine this year. But over 315, 320 pounds. Miles Frazier fits those size thresholds. He's an incredible athlete. The short area burst, short area quickness is really impressive. So I think he fits extremely well in Brian Callahan's gap scheme. Going to be a guard that gets out in space and really blocks guys well. Dominant run defender. Extremely technically advanced in pass protection. Very, very consistent player. Good base. Can get out over his skis sometimes. Can get off balance. But in general, I think he's an extremely, extremely balanced player. And I think he's a guy that could come in and sit behind Kevin Zeitler for 1 year and be kind of that swing guy because he has some experience at tackle. But you're really drafting this guy to be your permanent plan at guard, right guard after Kevin Zeitler leaves, because you don't really imagine him being around for more than 1 year, being 37 or whatever he is on offensive line. That's not really a guy you can bank on being around for a long time. So I know there's a lot of talent on the board. You could go for a safety here, but like I said, with Sanker being gone, I don't really envision the safety talent being here that I really would like. And so we will await these next couple of picks from the Cardinals, Vikings, Packers, Falcons, and Bengals. But like I said, I don't really envision Miles Frazier going here. And I believe the Cardinals have just been timed out on their pick timer, so we'll move on to the Minnesota Vikings. Would really like to see some of these picks start coming in a little bit quicker so I get out of here before about 11 o'clock tonight, because we have so many draft picks to get through. And also because I want to make my picks later in this draft as well. All right. And with 116, the Minnesota Vikings are going to send in their pick for Jordan Phillips, the defensive tackle out of Maryland, another guy who I think we see go on late day two. Did not go even with the run of defensive tackles we saw. Going to be a true one-tech nose tackle. An extremely impressive player for me. Kind of a late riser. Guy who had a great Shrine Bowl down in Dallas. Probably not a guy you're going to want on passing downs all that much. I don't think he's, helpless as a pass rusher. I think he's got a little bit of juice, but I think he's definitely more of a run defending nose tackle. That's what you're drafting him for, to come in and be kind of a force to hold down the anchor in those gaps in the middle. So we will see where the Packers go with pick 117 right here. And it looks like the Cardinals are going to get Cam Scatabo, running back out of Arizona State. And it looks like 117 is in. The Packers are going to take Cam Williams, the offensive tackle out of Texas. This slide from Anthony Belton is kind of baffling to me. I'm almost tempted to take him at 120 if he slips past these next two picks. But again, I feel like Dan Moore is more of a permanent solution, and guard is going to be more of a pressing issue. I think that probably I want to address that a little bit sooner. But a guy as talented as Anthony Belton, I mean, that's a top 50 guy following to me at 120. That's a tough scenario. But like I said, I just think the guard is going to be a more pressing issue, and you've got basically a 2-year deal for Dan Moore, and I think you probably kind of kick the can down the road on addressing a future solution at offensive tackle. So we await the Falcons pick at 118. We'll see where they go. Waiting on this pick. But yeah, Cam Scatabo goes to Arizona, staying in Arizona. Played his college ball at Arizona State. One of the best power runners in this class, incredibly strong. Has some of the best contact balance in this class, in my opinion. You can hit this guy head on with an 18-wheeler, and he's going to stumble, but he won't go down. I don't think he's the best athlete in the world. We didn't see him run the 40 for a pretty good reason. He may have ran it his pro day, I'm not sure, but he didn't run at the combine because it wasn't going to be a very impressive 40 time. We all knew that. I think he's a great receiver. He got a really flushed out route tree, great hands, very productive receiver in college. But I do worry that he's going to find a role on third downs at the NFL level because he's such a liability in pass protection. I don't think you're going to be able to really utilize that receiving skill set with a guy that has the blocking struggles that he does. But again, you've already got kind of a committee going in Arizona after you take Trey Benson out of Florida State last year. That's a great 1-2, Thunder and Lightning combo. And now, bouncing around the spreadsheet a little bit here. Not sure what's happening there. Yeah, here we go. Falcons on the clock. Got about 30 seconds to put this pick in. See if we get it or if we get another one skipped. And Falcons put in the other LSU offensive lineman who I didn't expect to go this soon, Emory Jones, offensive tackle out of LSU, who I believe is a guard. Now it is just one pick before we go on the clock. Cincinnati Bengals picking in front of us again. Not sure how this keeps happening. My guy Parker keeps jumping in one spot in front of me. But Emory Jones, guy I've got a little bit later. I think he's a 5th round grade for me, so just a tiny bit later on my board. But I think he's a guard. In my opinion, I have a hard time seeing him play tackle. He's got kind of the concrete shoes issue. He really gives up the corner a lot. Really struggles with speed rushers. But he's a damn brawler in the trenches. He's one of the best hand fighters in this class. Extremely heavy hands, very powerful, great punch. I don't think he's very technically sound. I think he plays kind of out of control. But if you can reel that in, really get him on the interior, take away the range and the mobility issues, just really utilize that power on the inside. Really, really strong on down blocks. I think he's a solid option. Again, I would have waited a little bit longer, especially if you're trying to get a guy to play offensive tackle, like Anthony Belton is still there. I'll keep preaching that. While we're on the topic of guys still falling, like none of the Jackson Dart has gone, but none of the other quarterbacks have gone. Like Tyler Shuck is still on the board. Jalen Milroe is still on the board. Pick 119. I mean, you see him go in the top 40, top 35 on pretty much every draft, every mock draft nowadays. So I guess this group is as low on the quarterback group as I am. But I would have felt comfortable taking Jalen Milroe probably 50 picks ago at this point, just based on the traits. And we will await to send in this card for Miles Frazier after the Cincinnati Bengals send their pick in. And then, after turning that card in, we will need to settle in for about the next, 58 picks. We've got quite a while to go. Don't have any fifth-round picks. Like I said, I was kind of wheeling and dealing yesterday. Felt the need to move some day 3 capital to go up and get a guy who I didn't think should have fallen. And looks like we are on the clock, so I will send in the card. Miles Frazier, offensive guard out of LSU. And we will get our Kevin Zeitler replacement in a year. Insurance policy. All right. So, all of the 4th round picks, both of them, I guess, because we dealt away our 3rd, off the board now, and we are settling in for the next 59 picks. Going to get pretty comfortable. Don't pick again until pick 179. Probably would like to address the secondary there. If somebody falls that I think is just kind of egregious, I'll take BPA at that point. But I really just expect to try and help out secondary, whether that's a DB, if like Robert Longer being out of Rutgers were to fall as an outside corner, I would take that. If Mac McWilliams, former UAB guy, go Blazers, if he falls there, I like him on the outside. Safety would be nice. I think I don't love the late day 3 safety options here. You're probably looking at like maybe a Katan Crawford out of Nevada. Maybe if Malik Verdon out of Iowa State falls, that's been my guy forever. He's a borderline top 100 guy. I don't know that I see him falling there, but I think that would be an awesome pick if he were to fall. And then maybe like a Dean Clark out of Fresno. There's going to be guys there. I'm not sure these are guys you expect to start. Probably more special teams guys right off the bat, and maybe eventually develop into something that can help out down the line. But yeah, I definitely want to pick a running back with one of those 2 6th-round picks. Want to add a bruiser. The first guy that comes to mind to me is Jaquindon Jackson out of Arkansas. That's the first one on my radar. Extremely underrated. You kind of gets pushed under the pile of awesome running backs in this draft class. Understandably, because we said this is a class where you're probably going to see like almost 30 running backs drafted or something like that. Because there's that many draftable running backs. But Jaquindon Jackson is a guy at 230 pounds. Pretty impressive movement skills. Good vision. Really runs low to the ground. Low center of gravity. Really stark pass protector, which is something I think the Titans need. Tyjae Spears is not a guy you can really rely on for pass protection. I think Tony Pollard did a serviceable job last season, but he's not getting any younger. I don't really know that his future on this team is there past this year. So I think Jaquindon Jackson is a guy that really brings a power element there. And yeah, so general draft strategy obviously going to change a lot because we'll see, you know, many more picks before we get to head back on the clock. Got about 50 picks where I will just be giving my thoughts on the guys that get drafted because going to be hard to hard to guess how the board is going to look this far in advance. Just going to try to settle in, have a good time, announce some of these picks, and we will be on the clock in. Let's see. This is a 2-minute pick timer. We've only made it through 20 picks in 30 minutes, so not great. Probably going to be a couple hours for Tennessee picks again. Unfortunately, not great, but we will be here regardless. As we await who's on the board, Tampa Bay at 121, waiting to see what they do. All right, we have so many admin picks. Today, these GMs decided they did not want to show up for day 3, unfortunately. That's a shame. And with pick 122, the Cowboys are here at least. Cowboys are going to take Dorian Strong, the corner out of Virginia Tech. With the amount of talent at corner off the board, I don't really love this pick. Dorian Strong is a tough one. Again, on early day 3, I don't hate it. I don't think it's that much of a reach. But for a guy, if you're expecting him to play on the outside, I think this pick is much worse. If you wanted to play nickel, I think I can live with it. On the outside, I think he's a guy that's probably one of the more limited athletes at corner in this whole class, and I think as a result of that, he gets really grabby in man coverage. And there's a difference between like aggressive grabby, like a Noel Williams. Noel Williams is grabby, but it's because he's strong and he's aggressive as a press corner, not because he needs to be, because he's not athletic enough to hang with him, so he just has to hold on for dear life. That's what Dorian Strong is. So not a guy I want in man coverage almost ever, but as a zone corner and as a nickel, I think he's got really good instincts, really smart player, good football mind. Probably did really well in the whiteboards in the interview process, I would imagine. So if you're taking this to be a zone kind of inside nickel corner, I like it. If you're taking it to be an outside man corner, I kind of hate it. But I'm not closely familiar with the Cowboys' defensive scheme. And now the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock at 123. We'll see where they go. They've had quite an interesting draft. I keep saying it every time they're on the clock. Like it has to be Milroe, right? I mean, you've seen Jalen Milroe continue to fall further and further and further and further. Kind of feels like you gotta take the swing here, right? Like I would have taken that swing on day 2 for a guy that much talent. But like especially on early day 3, I mean, there's virtually no risk involved to get a QB with 4.2 speed, in my opinion, and a rocket arm. And they go Damian Martinez, the running back out of Miami. I absolutely love that pick. I think that's an outstanding pick. My running back 5, top 75 player for me. I love Damian Martinez. I feel like I say it every single time that I talk about these running backs. There's so many track guys in this class. But former track star, Damian Martinez, which is a lot crazier to say at his size, being a over 200-pound back. I think he was 210 at the Senior Bowl, floating around there somewhere. Incredibly strong runner. Really hates the ground. Awesome contact balance. And I think he's got incredible vision, great lateral movement. The thing I always say when talking about Damian Martinez is he plays like he has loaded springs in his ankles because the guy just bounces in between gaps laterally so quickly. Along with the contact balance, I don't think he's much of a threat on third downs. I think The pass catching ability is not really there. He wasn't really any sort of threat past screens, and even then, that wasn't particularly good. The hands weren't great. Definitely not a separator at running back. I think the pass protection is something that needs a lot of refinement as well. For a guy his size, you'd like a lot more power in pass protection. Um, but as a pure runner, one of my favorite pure runners in this class, I think that getting him here in the fourth round is awesome. Another guy that I thought was really in play for me at 103 or 104. I keep saying 103. I forget that I traded that away. But I just there's too many holes on Tennessee's roster for me to really justify a running back pick. So I ended up going a different direction, but I absolutely think Damian Martinez was worthy of taking at that spot. And yeah, I think that's a great pick for Pittsburgh. You continue to see Jalen Milroe slide even further, which is pretty surprising to me. But if you're going to pass on for somebody, I think Damian Martinez is a great one. And you see Green Bay get back up on the clock here at 124, and we'll see where they go. And I believe the pick is in. Let me see who that is. It's going to be Danny Stutzman, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. My guy Jake was in here with me like he was yesterday. He's an Oklahoma fan. Stutzman is one of his guys. He loves Danny Stutzman. Stutzman's a really good, really kind of reckless, out of control linebacker, like a real 80s style linebacker. He needs a neck pad, neck roll to really fit the bill. But a guy that's an extremely hard hitter, one of the best run stopping running backs in the class, great run fitter, very, very smart, instinctive linebacker, fits gaps really well, comes downhill in a hurry, good trigger, good instincts, pretty good athlete, not really a guy that I want in coverage all that often. I don't think he's all that disciplined in coverage. Not a guy you want in man ever, that's for sure. But as a pure run defender here in the top of the third, I think he's a great two-down linebacker that could really raise the ceiling of a defense there in Green Bay. They continue to invest pretty heavily in the linebacker position. You pair him up with Quay Walker. And yeah, it's a solid pick. And now we have the Chargers back up on the clock at 125. These day three picks are kind of unrecognizable at this point because we've had so many trades back and forth in this draft. But yeah, waiting to see some of these picks. Really would like to start going faster. These GMs are not interested at all on day three, apparently. We're in for the long haul tonight. God, that sun is brutal also. Chargers got Shamar Stewart in the first round. That was one of the craziest steals to me. He slipped a lot further than I thought he should have. They just took Bashal Tutin a couple of minutes ago. Addressed that running back position behind Najee Harris after letting J.K. Dobbins go. Who did they get in the second round? They got Tyleik Williams, defensive lineman out of Ohio State. Another good pick. Love that one. And then the third round, they got somewhere. No idea because the trades are all over the place. I don't know if they traded out or what. I've lost track at this point. But still awaiting this Chargers selection again. And it is Bilal Cohn, the corner out of Western Michigan. One of my favorite guys in this class. I'm a big fan of his. Have been since early in the process. I've got an early fourth round grade on him, so I think this is about the range I feel comfortable taking him in. Some people see him as a nickel. I don't mind that at all. I think he could play nickel and find success there. But I also think this is a guy that could play on the outside. I think he's one of the few day three like depth corners that has the potential to stay outside. Is a good enough athlete and has a solid enough frame. Very instinctive in zone. Sticky enough in man coverage. Not a guy super strong. You don't really want him in press man coverage all that much. But yeah, another one of my favorite guys. Probably better as his own corner, but I think he has the potential to play kind of off, bail press man. So yeah, I don't mind that pick at all for a team that's got. I believe they lost Asante Samuel Jr. I don't think he's signed anywhere yet, but I don't think they're bringing him back. They got a lot of medical red flags with him, so kind of hoping to replace that depth option in LA. And the Jaguars, who traded out of pick, 110, somewhere around there, in the early fourth round, traded back to here at 126. we'll see what they do. Or no, they traded up. Excuse me, because they got David Walker. So back up after trading up, and they will take Luke Kandra, the guard out of Cincinnati. Probably one of the guys I'm lowest on consensus on in comparison. People really like him in this range. I don't see it personally. I think he's a guy that is really strong, really powerful, heavy hands, good run blocker. But as far as pass protection goes, I have a really hard time seeing him see the field in the NFL. I think he's got a significant lack of speed, which you'd think on the inside is not a problem, right? You know, foot speed typically doesn't matter a whole lot for guards. But as far as like mirroring and picking up stunts and everything, Kandra struggles extremely heavily. Not a very good athlete. So I do worry about that. I think I've got a late 5th round grade on him, so probably a guy I would have taken a little bit later. But probably the first pick for Jacksonville I don't 100% love. Excuse me. But you know, can't go wrong at this point with taking a guy who's going to be a NFL ready run blocker at guard, even if he's not my favorite in pass protection. They've done so well the rest of this draft. I think they can afford that. Yeah, the Rams are back up, and we will see what they do at 127. This is another team that I believe should be looking at Jalen Milroe. If it's up to me, and I understand like the hesitancy with him. I'm one of the people lowest on Jalen Milroe. Believe me, I've preached that for quite a while. But at this point, this is still kind of crazy to me for him to fall quite this far. Is outrageous. And doesn't look like the Rams GM is super active currently. These picks are really, really coming in slowly today. I'm really glad we shortened this pick timer. Goodness gracious, I can filibuster about the draft for so long, but we're here on day 3. These picks are coming in slow as molasses. There's gonna be some dead air. Looks like the Rams GM finally in here, hoping this pick comes in somewhat soon. This is like I said, it's another team that could be Milroe. A guy maybe Tyler Shuck is another one that I've heard Sean McVay be sniffing around. They need to get a guy behind Matthew Stafford. You know, Stafford, his future is obviously not long for LA. Maybe one more year. I know we just re-signed that contract, but a lot of injury issues. Almost on the wrong side of 40. I think you need a contingency plan at quarterback here. Take a really toolsy guy on day 3. Low risk, high reward. Get him to sit behind a QB whisperer in Sean McVay and learn behind one of the all-time greats in Matt Stafford. So that would probably be my pick if I was on the clock for the Rams right now. And I'll continue to talk about Anthony Belton slipping. Now, this is a guy that I've got in my top 50. I think he's the offensive tackle 5 on my board, or offensive tackle 4 even. And this is a guy that's slipping into the 130s almost at this point, which is absolutely crazy to me. And still have not gotten this pick in. After them, assuming it's got to be Madden pick up here soon. I believe their pick timers run out. So then it's going to be Washington on the board. Here at 128, I believe they just picked recently, didn't they? They've had a pick in the 4th round. I'm almost sure of it. Yes, they took Kobe Bryant, corner out of Kansas. Nice addition to that secondary, which obviously needs some help. Awaiting any pick at all. Please give me something to talk about here. No more safeties off the board since Jonas Sanker, which is good news for Tennessee. And the Rams selection finally comes in. It's going to be Zy Alexander, the corner out of LSU. Um, Another guy who I probably would have gone a little bit later, but again, I don't have a problem with him at this point on day 3. I don't think it's that much of a reach. Um, Guy that's kind of small, got some physicality issues. I don't think he's going to be a very strong corner in the league, but he's a good athlete, strong zone corner. Um, could be a guy that I think is a good rotational piece to a secondary. I like that for the Rams, who obviously have a need at outside corner. And Washington's pick comes in right after with Tyler Barron, the edge rusher out of Miami. And Tyler Barron is a player that you really see go a lot later on day 3. This is one of the stronger reaches of this class so far, in my opinion. Barron is a yeah, I mean, you see Barron typically go in like the late 5th, the earliest usually in these. I mean, he's more typically a 6th or 7th round pick. Really strong edge rusher. You know, obviously he's opposite of Reuben Bain, who we expect to be a top pick next year in that draft class. So not a bad pick at all. You know, it's adding into that pretty weak edge room in Washington. You know, they added a lot of talent to the interior defensive line in free agency, but still need help on the edge there. And up next is the Detroit Lions. Or no, sorry, Baltimore Ravens. Up next, whose pick is not in, I believe. Now it is Jalen Reed, the safety out of Penn State. So the next safety off the board goes off. Not great for the safety depth for Tennessee. Jalen Reed is a guy that's really interesting to talk about in this class because it's a really talented safety. He had really, really good 2023 tape. Everybody, I mean, he was talked about where the other safety, Kevin Winston, is being talked about as well. But he had a pretty bad knee injury ending his season, I believe, in practice in spring training before the season even started. So Jalen Reed getting added to that Baltimore secondary, who has not gotten a safety yet. Finally, pick one up here on late day 3, or early day 3, excuse me. And now the Lions are on the clock. Lions have had one of the strangest drafts of anyone. Me and Andy, my guy, who's in the Broncos war room, talked about this yesterday, taking Dylan Fairchild in the top 60, a guy who we expect to see go even later than where we are now. Pretty good shock. Ending day 2 with Nick Nash, the converted QB to receiver out of San Jose State. Got Nick Skorton in the first round, who I thought was a good pick, but the picks since then have been questionable, to say the least. So we'll see where they go here. Is this where we see Milroe go? Yeah, this is a team that's got Jared Goff. Obviously, he took them a pretty long way, but kind of fell apart in the playoffs. You do wonder how high Jared Goff's ceiling really is. Kind of the same situation that Tennessee was in back in 2019, 2020, 2021 with Tannehill, where you've got a really, really good roster. You have all the pieces except you have a kind of mid-level game manager quarterback, and when you get to January football, those guys only take you so far. You really need a guy that can take over a game, need an X factor of under center. So at this point, I would want to take a shot on Milroe, get a guy in Dan Campbell's locker room and kind of develop him. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the pick. We're going to see Milroe fall even further, and they're going to go double up on edge even after taking Nick Skorton and go Jordan Birch, the edge rusher out of Oregon. I say edge rusher. He's going to play a lot more of that Draymond Jones for Tennessee role where he's playing 5-tech and to kick inside on third downs, passing downs, because he's a much bigger body. I think he's like 280, 290 pounds. But Jordan Birch is one of the strongest edge rushers in this whole class, probably the best long arm right there with Q Robinson. Those two have extremely effective long arms. Jordan Birch has one of the best bull rushes in this class as well. Not much variance outside of that. Never going to win with speed. Not a great hand fighter, but a pretty good run defender, a good anchor in the run. And a guy, like I said, has some of the most power in his frame for a pass rusher in this class. So very, very Detroit type edge. They love the big body, lanky guys. So makes sense for them to double up on edge and grab Birch there. And up next, we have the Saints up on the clock, who I would say would be a QB candidate if they had not traded back up into the first round. At 31 to grab Jackson Dart, which looks like a pretty good move currently after losing Derek Carr, which broke yesterday. Derek Carr has a shoulder injury, or again, shoulder injury. We'll we'll see how real that actually is. There's been a lot of speculation around the league about that being much very similar to the Deshaun Watson, injury to re-injury to his Achilles, where they're really just trying to get out of a aging quarterback who is hurting the franchise, and they kind of want to tank without actually tanking. Um, that's what I believe it is. We'll see if they actually go Shadur in the actual draft here in a week and a half, 2 weeks. And it looks like he's the pick in. No, doesn't look like it. Still waiting on that. Still not in. These picks are coming in real slow. Colts coming up after the Saints because I've seen their pick timer worn out. Looks like it has already. Um, Colts have done pretty well discussed. They traded away Juju Brents, their corner out of Kansas State from last year. The like what was he 999 RAS, extremely athletic guy, set like challenged Byron Jones' record on the broad jump. Um, and yeah, the Colts have taken. They got Donovan Ezeraku in the first round, which was one of the first surprises of this draft, and what I love because I have Ezeraku that high, but I didn't envision a lot of other people in the draft space having him quite as high as I did. So that's cool to see him get that shout there, and some juice into that edge room between him and Leatu Latu, who they took last year. You got two extremely bendy, extremely athletic edge rushers on opposite sides, both with great cross chops. Um, and Saints pick still not in. Um, Chiefs coming up after the Colts. Already talked about them. They've picked a couple times so far on day 3. Can we get any of these picks in, please? And the 2-minute pick timer has gone for 2 straight picks, and we still have no picks in at this point. Going extremely slow today. Titans still have another what 50, 40, 50-ish picks to go. Um, before we get to Titan selection at 179, which again I'd like to add some secondary help there, whether that's an outside corner, whether that's a safety. Malik Verdon out of Iowa State is certainly the dream, but I don't know if he'll fall that far. I wish I could tell you what's going on here. We've gone through 3 straight pick timers and have no picks in. Um, kind of hit a sticking point here in the draft talks. Coming up on the comp picks for round 4, starting off with Houston. And finally, we get a pick in. The Saints are going to be taking Jackson Slater, the guard, out of Sacramento State. Another Senior Bowl riser, somebody I got to interview down there actually after his big practice. Somebody coming up from a D2 school, really sticking it to the big name guys. Really held his own. I didn't like his tape quite as much as I loved um, his performance in Mobile, but still a great player. Going to go in this range, really strong, good run blocker, very, very smooth, fluid mover, technically sound. And then the next pick comes back in at 132. The Colts are going to take Logan Brown, the tackle out of Kansas, one of my biggest guys in this entire class. I love Logan Brown. He's a top 50 guy for me. I did not expect to talk about him this early, so shout out to whoever that was that made that pick. And Logan Brown is awesome. This guy is, if you've listened to me before, you know I love the athletic tackles that get out in space and move really well, are great in wide zone looks. And I think Logan Brown fits that description to a T. Extremely fluid and explosive mover. Extremely good run blocker. One of the better run blockers in this class. One of the few offensive tackles who really, really hates defensive linemen. Wants to really finish blocks well. To put guys on their back. I think he does that extremely well. The pass protection, I think the hand usage is really impressive, especially for a guy who's only been a one-year starter. The hands are really impressive. He's got a good snatch trap. The one concern with him is, does he have the anchor to survive at tackle in the league? You really saw the anchor get tested in Mobile. Shamar Stewart had a couple of really highlight reps just running straight through his chest. But I think that's something they can improve on. I don't think it's a size or a strength issue, just a technique issue. So you get him behind a good offensive line coach. And that's an issue that can be resolved, in my opinion. And yeah, I think it's a great pick. Again, unfortunately for Indianapolis, going in the division. And yeah, I mean the Colts and the Jaguars have had really, really nice drafts. I've been impressed with both of theirs. Unfortunate for guys in my division to have success in this draft, but I can respect it when I see it. Chiefs finally back up on the clock here at 133. See where they go. They took Dylan Sampson with their last pick. Again, I'll continue to wonder when we're going to see Anthony Belton go off the board. Kansas City still has not taken an offensive lineman. They have a hole at offensive tackle. I do believe that Anthony Belton's a top 50 guy. I don't think he should be falling like he is. Could have been a guy I would have taken at 104 or 120, just not how the roster fell. Looking like we have the Chiefs pick in soon. Should be. Sounds like it. And it's going to be Savion Jones, the edge rusher out of LSU, the guy who operated opposite of Braden Swinson this year at LSU. Very, very different styles of edge rushers. I think that Savion Jones is a guy that, rather than being kind of the finesse and the technically advanced hand usage of a Braden Swinson, opposite of him, it was just pure raw power. Extremely out of control. Not very technically refined. No hand usage. Not a guy that's gonna win with speed or bend around the corner. Not the best athlete in the world, but just so damn strong. Guys really, really struggled to anchor against him. He had a great bull rush. Very, very dominant in run defense. I think that's a great pickup for Kansas City, who also likes those bigger body edges. And it looks like the next pick is going to come in for Cleveland. They're going to take tight end Aronde Gadsden out of Syracuse. And I say tight end with air quotes around it. Because I believe he's just a glorified slot receiver. This is not ever a guy you're going to want in line. But I think he's a pretty good separator for his size. I think he's a pretty good athlete. Very, very nice at the catch point. Going to be a red zone threat. Knows how to box guys out. Use that long frame. He's a hands catcher. So Cleveland adding in somebody behind Njoku to really be that power slot option. I like that a lot. And now Houston, as we get into the comp picks for the fourth round, Houston will be up. They took Josh Simmons in the first round. And they took Jared Wilson in the third. Excuse me. Investing heavily in that offensive line for C.J. Stroud after he got hit over and over and over again last year. And then they go and trade Laramie Tunsil, their franchise tackle. Um, so they are riding that ship and investing all of their resources into offensive line. We'll see if they finally go receiver here because I don't believe they've addressed that position yet. And obviously, Tank Dell with his injury issues, his future is very much in question. You lost Stephon Diggs in free agency, so outside of Nico Collins, you really don't have any surefire receiving options. So that'd probably be the direction that I go here if I was um, drafting for Houston. And it looks like their pick timer is up, so it will be New Orleans back on the clock. We'll see what kind of picks they make. Just took. Who was it that they just took? It was Jackson Slater. And guard of Sacramento State. We'll see where they go now. Um, like I already mentioned, added Jackson Dart on night one, as well as Will Johnson in the top 10. Uh, and still waiting on this Saints pick to come in, and the Houston Texans. Again, picks coming extremely slow. Still have another grueling 60 picks before the Titans can, or no, 40 picks. Excuse me, I was way off. 40 picks before we pick. Still not hating the safety depth as we go on here. Gonna pull up my board here and really see who we've got as an option. Looks like Denver has their pick locked and loaded. Like I said, I already mentioned Kenton Crawford and like the Dean Clark out of Fresno. I've talked about Blake Verdon ad nauseum. Let's see what other safety options we could have on the board at 179. Again, corners are still going pretty sparingly. The depth there is not bad. If there's a guy like I already mentioned, Robert Longerbeam, if he were to fall, the Titans have been connected with him quite a bit. I think that could be a nice option there in the late sixth round. I don't know if he falls that far. Billy Bowman, I believe, is still on the board, to my knowledge. Hunter Waller out of Wisconsin is still there. DJ Roberts out of Marshall, the safety. I was really impressed with him watching Mike Green's tape. Jordan Hancock, the other Ohio State safety opposite of Lathan Ransom. Raywan Lane, the safety out of Navy. Maxon Hook, another really great Senior Bowl guy out of Toledo. Could all be in play there. Maybe a little early for some of those guys, but I think safety is a pretty strong need for Tennessee. Obviously, you've got Armani Hooker, back there, and he's not getting any younger. Had some injury issues. Obviously, that's plagued him, but he had a pretty good season last year. Still a well above average, rangy kind of free safety type body, but you really need a big body box safety to play that traditional strong safety look. Mike Brown is serviceable, but really not a guy you like to have on your field consistently. And you're not going to get a starting option typically here at a pick as late as 179. We're really just looking for a guy that can contribute on special teams and and maybe develop into a potential starting role eventually at some point. And I do think, obviously, again, Malik Verdon is my first option for that. But if he were to not fall, there's still some nice late day 3 options. And I'll run through some corners here in a minute as soon as I can pull those up. And I don't think Malachi Moore has gone off the board yet, has he? I'd be shocked to see Malachi Moore fall that far, but I'm doing jumping jacks back here if he's available at that pick. I think he's an outstanding guy that can kind of float between deep safety and slot. Very, very technically sound player, great football player, a lot of experience, played 5 years at Alabama. Could be a really fun option if he were to fall, but again, I don't think he will. So we will check out the corner board as well. List out some of those options that could be there on late day 3. Already mentioned Mac McWilliams and Robert Longerbeam. Mac McWilliams, former Blazer, multiple year UAB player, transferred to UCF this past year, had a great season. Another Senior Bowl guy. We got Jalen Smith on the board. I do think he's more of a nickel than an outside guy. And I think, Tennessee, at least for this year, still has Roger McCreary. I don't envision his future being very long on this team, but still here for now. I think you're more looking for an outside guy. You got Caleb Bransaw, who I don't believe has been taken yet. Zoff Frazier, who I don't think has been taken yet. Zoff Frazier is an extremely impressive player to me. Tested extremely well. Another, super athletic, massive frame boundary corner out of UTSA, very reminiscent of Tariq Woolen to Seattle a couple of years ago. Not the helmet scout, but they are very similar players as well stylistically. So see where he goes. Balak Cohen already been taken. Denzel Burke could be an option. I didn't like his 2024 tape at all. 2023 wasn't bad at all, but the most recent tape was certainly disappointing. Very, very stiff hips. Elijah Huzzy out of North Carolina could be another option. The other UCF corner, aside from Mac Williams and Brandon Adams, another Senior Bowl guy. Pretty good. I already mentioned Robert Longerbeam. Upton Stout is still on the board, but again, I see him more as a nickel type, safety type, rather than a boundary DB like Tennessee needs. And the Broncos on the clock are going to take Cody Simon, the linebacker out of Ohio State. Pretty early. I like Cody Simon. I think he's a great linebacker, good run defender. Like I said, run fits really well, very smart. Was kind of the captain in the middle of that Ohio State defense that was so good this year. I do think it was slightly early for him, but after losing Cody Barton to Tennessee, Denver has a hole at linebacker. Nick Benito is kind of more of that tweener, Jalen Walker type. And I believe we're trying to get a pick for the Houston Texans, who got skipped not too long ago. Currently on pick, let's see, what is that, 138? Excuse me, waiting to see where they go here. LaQuint Allen being the admin pick for Houston, since their GM is not here. LaQuint Allen is a guy I'd love an excuse to talk about. He's one of my favorites in this draft class at running back. My RB6, I believe. And he's kind of goes against my typical grading scale. Normally I like the athletes, the really twitchy, bursty guys at running back, and LaQuint Allen is not that. Not very explosive, not a lot of first level burst for him, but extremely well-rounded guy, probably one of the more ready running backs to just come in and play 3 downs. One of the better pass protectors in this class, one of the best receiving backs I've ever watched. Great hands, fully fleshed out route tree. He separates like a slot receiver. Good vision as a runner, solid contact balance for not being the biggest guy in the world. And the Niners up at 138. Seems like their pick is in. And Denzel Burke, a guy I was talking about for Tennessee, much later than this, goes off the board. Not really a guy I wanted to take anyway. And like I mentioned, I think he's a guy that we were talking about pretty highly coming out of 2023. A lot of guys liked him over the summer. Then he came out in 2024 and really kind of lacked the hip fluidity you need at outside corner. Took a lot of bad risks and didn't really have the recovery speed to make up for that, so he got exposed quite a bit. Really outshined by Igmanosa and the other Ohio State corner. And now coming out of the 4th round, officially start round 5, with Minnesota Vikings making a pick here at 139. You'll see 141 was originally Tennessee's pick. We traded that to Cincinnati in the trade up for Ashton Gelati. And we're going to see Isaiah Bond, guy I have to talk about now, come off the board at 139 to the Vikings. As a player, Isaiah Bond is a guy that I've liked a little bit more than consensus. I think he's extremely fast, very Jalen Waddle-esque, 4.2 speed guy on tape. Pretty good separator. Very, very flimsy at the catch point, but he decelerates well. Effortless speed. And the problems come when you see the off-field issues. We've heard for a while that there were some major character concerns. Those really came to light the other day when he turned himself in for a sexual assault warrant. That's the whole legal process involving that's going to go on now during this draft process. I assume it will turn teams off. To an extent, I'd expect to see him fall later than this on day 3 when we get to the actual draft, which is crazy to say because this guy came in to the year as a lot of people, including me, he's wide receiver 1. This guy's Alabama tape was outstanding, and then he got to Texas and just kind of fell apart both mentally and physically. So a shame to see that talent really go to waste. But moving on to Carolina here at 140. Jacksonville coming up at 142 says they have their pick ready. So we'll see if we can get through Cincinnati, getting through Carolina. Don't have the pick in quite yet. Wishing I had this 141 back. Wishing I hadn't traded that 5th round pick. But I think the paid for the trade for Gelati was the correct move. Needed to happen. Go get that second edge alongside Princely Umanmielen to really revamp this edge room because you lose Harold Landry, who was already not much of a contributor in 2024. Jalen Harrell, even though he took him in the 7th, was not really a guy that developed into anything so far. So you've really just got Arden Key and nobody. And Arden Key in his own right was pretty extremely disappointing, but probably the only guy on the roster with a chance of being a contributing rotational edge rusher. Got a lot of speed. Still awaiting the Panthers pick here. And I am like 99% sure Parker just took a player that's not draft eligible with my pick at 141. And the Panthers pick is in, and it is Q Robinson out of Alabama, a guy that I would have been looking at 103 and would have taken if I didn't trade up for Ashton Gelati. Q Robinson is awesome, one of my favorite edge rushers in this draft. I've got a late 2nd round grade on him. Extremely impressive player. Alabama really didn't... still have no idea what's going on with that Bengals pick there, but yeah, Q Robinson, a guy who didn't play much for Bama. Season ended with the elbow injury, which was really unfortunate to see. But when he played a lot as a designated pass rusher rather than a run stuffer. So people kind of use that and his size against him. But, I mean, in the limited amount of reps he got as a run defender, as a 3-down edge, I thought he really shined, like especially against Vanderbilt, against that really run-heavy Vanderbilt scheme. I thought he did an extremely good job for having the stack and shed that he has at 245 pounds is really impressive. He kind of dismantled that run game in Nashville against Vanderbilt. And his shine really comes as a pass rusher, though. For a guy at 240 pounds, obviously he's a top end athlete. The bend is there. And but I mean, I mentioned him earlier in talking about Jordan Burch. The real star when it comes to Q Robinson is the long arm. I mean, the amount of power he generates with a long arm at 240 pounds. I mean, you'll see him lift tackles up off the ground that are 70 pounds heavier than he is, and he'll do it standing straight up. He's not even winning the leverage battle. For a guy doing that standing straight up at 240 pounds to create that much power with that move is extremely impressive. I think that guy's going to be a steal. You develop him into a 3-down edge, maybe put a tiny bit of weight on him, but not enough to really ruin the twitch and the athleticism and the bend he has. That could be a really dynamic pass rusher for Carolina. Coming here at 142, Jacksonville's pick is in. It is Thor Griffith, defensive tackle out of Louisville. I believe he's a Harvard transfer, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong on that one. But not a guy that I have watched a ton of tape on. I've seen a little bit on him. Very, very good run stopper. Played, in the middle of that Louisville defense that had Ashton Gelati on it. They were a monster defensive front with a lot of great run defenders. The Raiders pick looks like it's also already in with Mello Dotson, corner out of Kansas, who I honestly have never really seen. He's been a guy that continues to float around like late day 3 UDFA for me. People have him, in this range, the early day day 3, even late day 2 range, and I just don't really see that with Dotson. I don't think he's very strong. I don't think he's a good enough athlete to make up for how little physicality there is in his game. But Raiders decide to go ahead and take that there. Patriots up on the clock, who have moved around a lot in this draft. Let's see, counting down to the Titans pick at about 35 picks. Still seems like a very, very long way to go. And let's see if we get the pick after them. Patriots pick still not in yet. I don't. The Jake Roberts pick to Cincinnati is an intriguing one. And the pick comes in for the Patriots. It is Jalen Travis, the offensive tackle out of Iowa State. Another one of my absolute favorite players in this draft class. Travis is so underrated. He's a tackle that kind of goes against my personal philosophy. I hate tackles with range issues and foot speed issues that lose to speed. That's something that really scares me, kind of getting scarred by Tennessee's slow tackle issues the past couple years. But Jalen Travis is a monster human being. I mean, this is a guy that is 6'8", 340 pounds, and 35-inch arms. The amount of length this guy has on that frame is really baffling. And he's one of the best I've seen at using his length to his advantage. And even while having the foot speed issues, still, being able to counteract those guys with that length, the 35-inch arms, 6'8" frame, just an incredible wingspan. Also tested out of this world. Extremely good athlete, explosive athlete. And then the next pick, the Jets. Finally, Anthony Belton goes off the board. Back-to-back tackles that I absolutely love. Anthony Belton's a top 50 guy for me, coming out of NC State. Extremely powerful. Probably the most raw power of any tackle in this draft class. Would really just have reps where he collapsed an entire side of the line on a down block because he's just that strong. Another guy with some foot speed issues, but I think he's such a good athlete that it's more of a technique issue rather than a limitation athletically. Got some balance issues as well. He'll get out over his skis sometimes and kind of lean into punches. But a dominant run blocker, really immovable anchor, so much raw power. I think this is a guy that has an extremely high ceiling at tackle. So that's one of the biggest steals of the draft, in my opinion, to the Jets and Carolina. Back up on the clock after taking Q Robinson 5 picks earlier, or 6 picks earlier, and we will see where they go. Um, Coming up in the middle of round 5. Tennessee still about, how far are we? About 30 picks outside of our pick in the 6th round. Continues to just crawl slow through this draft, but inching closer and closer to our pick again. Safety depth is still looking pretty good. I'm pretty confident how this board's looking secondary wise. I think we're going to have a good option at corner or safety falling to 179. And then, like I said, I'm going to spend that 188th pick on a running back. Just depends who we see. I like Jaquin and Jackson, but we'll see who's available there when we get there. Still awaiting Carolina's pick to see if we can get this thing moving. It's like some people saying Elijah Roberts, some people saying Antoine Powell Ryland for that Cincinnati pick. Really up in the air. Not sure what's going on there, but 49ers pick at 147, which I guess is here. There goes Carolina's pick. Coming in at Pat Bryant, the receiver out of Illinois. One of the true few X receivers in this class. Extremely limited athlete, but a guy that gets off the line of scrimmage well. Doesn't struggle with press coverage at all. Very, very strong player. Strong at the catch point. Pretty good separator for his size overall. But again, I think just the main issues are the strong athletic limitations there. But again, I think getting a true X receiver who I think can be a high floor level starter at this point in the draft is always going to be a good pick. Carolina added Jack Besh earlier in this class, so they're looking to completely revamp that receiver room as well, like Tennessee has. San Francisco on the board just tried to turn in Jeffrey Bassa, but Jeffrey Bassa is off the board. Can't do that. Waiting to see what the rebound pick is there. Gonna have the Bears up next. Sorting out some confusion with all of these picks. And kind of another stalemate here. Looks like we got some confusion we're trying to figure out on the technical end. But sitting here dead in the middle of the still awaiting the 49ers actual pick. No safeties off the board since Billy Bowman did go. So Bowman and Jalen Reed only guys off the board so far since Jonas Sanker. Still a lot of juice left in that safety board currently. And San Fran takes DJ Giddens, the running back out of Kansas State, who's another one of my sleepers in this draft. I have a day 2 grade on him. I think DJ Giddens has some of the best eyes, some of the best vision of this entire class. Very powerful runner as well. Good contact balance. Runs pretty violently. Low to the ground. Good center of balance. So I think that's a guy that can come in and honestly has the floor of an immediate day 1B starter. I think he has the potential to be a day 1 1A starter as well. Even I would let this guy lead my running back room. Personally, if I were the GM, I think that's a great pick this late. Running backs we just have not seen go off the board. I think there's a lot of really talented running backs still available currently. Um, and now the pick goes to Chicago at 148, awaiting to see where they go. Um, no pick in yet. Nothing coming in. Really kind of unfortunate the amount of inactivity we've had in this draft today. We did really well on day 1 and 2 about having people in here ready to go, ready to pick. We're moving through pretty fast. Today has not been quite as nice. And the Bears pick comes in, and it will be Holland Pierce, the offensive tackle out of Rutgers. Another guy who I really, really love. I think I have a late third round grade on him, or an early, mid to late third, I believe, on him. Holland Pierce is a monster of a human being. One of the biggest football players I've ever seen in my life. 6'8", 350 pounds, 37-inch arms. Yeah, that number is correct. Just an absurd amount of length, and the crazier part is the fact that this guy can actually move and get out in space and actually, get consistently hit the outside shoulder on reach blocks while being that crazy size. Obviously got a good anchor at that size. I'd like to see him get his pad level down a little bit more, even at being 6'8". I feel like he comes out of his stance a little bit too sluggish and too high. This guy's into his frame a little bit too easily. Could use those arms a little bit better to punch a little bit sooner. But I think Holland Pierce has an extremely high ceiling as an offensive tackle, and getting that at 148 is great value. And with the next pick, Dallas is going to take Jalen Rivers out of Miami, another one of my favorite players in this draft. I see him as guard, not a tackle, but I think he is one of the better guards in this draft. Really immovable anchor. I always get, in the old unstoppable force, immovable object discussion. I think he is the immovable object. I don't think I saw him lose to power a single time across his entire tape. Now, the foot speed is an issue when it comes to mirroring and picking up stunts and that kind of stuff. Like it's an issue for sure. But like I said, the anchor is immovable, very very strong run blocker, good hands, really impressive hand usage. And I believe I have an early fourth on him, so getting him in mid to late fifth round right here, I think is great value for them. Miami appears to have taken Tim Smith, defensive lineman out of Alabama. Another guy who you see typically go a little bit later than this, but we're into the point of day 3 now where it's really just so much variance on the board. There's really no reaches at this point. And Tim Smith is a guy that's got a lot of pass rushing upside. You saw he was a big part of that Bama pass rush on the interior. Very active hands. He's got not the best anchor in run defense, but a guy that can contribute as a pass rusher, I think, rotationally on being a day 3 guy. And now the Colts will be up with 151. We'll see where they go with this pick. Looks like we're getting the pick in currently. Officially within 30 picks for Tennessee. To make their pick. Here at 179. Still looking to pick up somebody in the secondary. Corner and safety board looking pretty solid to me. Hoping to get this pick in for the Colts, and it is going to be Caleb Ransaw, the safety out of Tulane, safety corner, whatever you see him as. Finally see him go off the board. Unfortunate for Tennessee. He was a guy that was in play for me at 179. And now, Colts add another addition to that secondary after trading away Juju Brents. And the Cardinals will be back on the clock. We'll see where they go with this 152nd overall selection. nothing yet. We've seen Arizona be pretty slow on the clock today, so I expect this pick to take a while to come in. Let's see, where have they gone so far on day 3? I believe they got Cam Scatabo. It was first. Just keeping him in Arizona. They have added Jade Barron in round 1, bolstering that secondary. I believe he's going to be a nickel, but I think that Arizona has a hole there. He's got to come in and play that role for them. Got about 20 seconds till this pick timer is up. And we will move on to the next selection, which is the Cincinnati Bengals, still back up at 153. Picks have kind of hit a lull right here. I feel like I've said that a couple of times today. Picks coming in really slow. We get to day 3. Teams start losing focus a little bit in exercises like this, so that's to be expected. Really hoping to just crawl to my picks here at 178, 179 and 188. Grab us a safety or a corner and then a running back at 188, and we will recap this draft and get out of here, hopefully somewhat early. Still leave everybody some time on this Saturday evening. Still no pick for Arizona. Should be moving on to Cincinnati currently. And the Bengals pick finally comes in. It's going to be Sean Dolak, the linebacker out of Buffalo, a favorite among the draft professors. This is a guy that we've talked about quite a bit. Not somebody that I'm quite as high on as some other people in this list. I think he's more of a later day 3 guy. But somebody who I think has a solid floor as a rotational linebacker, can contribute on rundowns. Not the best athlete in the world. I don't know how much he's going to be able to contribute as far as pass coverage goes on passing downs. But definitely worth a shot for Cincinnati. He's going to be losing Jermaine Pratt pretty soon. Logan Wilson, his future is uncertain in Cincinnati. So that linebacker room is very, very up in the air. Need some guys that can contribute on early downs. Giants going to be on the clock here at 154. See where they can go. This is a really unfortunate stretch of picks right here. This is just all of the GMs who aren't here back to back to back to back. So we'll see how long it takes. Cardinals pick is still not in. Giants pick, not in. Still got about 25-ish picks. Giants pick is finally coming in. And Jalen Milroe, the QB out of Alabama, finally goes off the board in the 5th round to the New York Football Giants. QB3 went at 31. QB4 went at 154. So quite a difference there. Much further than we typically see Jalen Milroe fall. So this is a guy that I've been very vocally anti Jalen Milroe throughout this whole process. I think between the traits are incredible. Nobody's arguing against that. 4.2 speed player on tape, in my opinion. Rocket arm. Really just effortlessly drives the ball out of his hand. One of the strongest arms in this class. But the problems come with pretty much everything else. Disastrous pocket management, takes the worst, right there with Shadur Sanders for taking the worst sacks in this class. Um, I think that the processing was really never there. Uh, Extremely out of rhythm usually as an instructor passer. Always late to stuff. The eyes were not fast at all. Poor decision maker. This is a guy that you're taking a project on. This is a guy that needs to develop and sit for a while. Um, but even with that, I mean, like for a guy with his traits, you're taking that in the third round, in my opinion, much less the fifth round. This is even if he busts completely, this pick is worth it 10 times out of 10, in my opinion. Good pick for the Giants. And the Dolphins take Cam Jackson, the defensive tackle out of Florida, who the Tennessee Titans have had a 30 visit with. Another guy who really popped at the Senior Bowl. Has a lot of pass rushing juice as a run stuffer, or a lot of pass rushing juice, on passing downs, and can also contribute as a run stuffer. Very, very big body, 350-pound guy, or near it on the interior. Going to be a rotational guy in Miami who really needs help on the interior there. So a good pick for them. A guy that's really climbed against the Senior Bowl. There's some stamina issues there. You worry about, like kind of the same vein we talked about Tavondre Sweat for the Titans last year. That's something I kind of got burned on. But taking that at 38 and taking that at 155 or whatever that was is a very, very big difference. So I think Cam Jackson is a guy that's going to be able to contribute on the defense, on the interior to Miami. I think that's good value here in the mid to late fifth round. Currently on pick 159, I want to say it is. Just really crawling through these picks currently. I would really like to get back on the board for Tennessee, but hard to get through these picks when the GMs aren't here. So just gonna have to really settle in here for the long haul. Wait for these pick timers to run out. We'll see guys get taken. And we're gonna see Joshua Gray be the admin pick for Arizona at 152. The offensive lineman out of Oregon State. Probably going to be a guard in the NFL, in my opinion. A lot of power, not the best mover in the world. I think that's probably more of a later day 3 UDFA guy, in my opinion. But don't hate that shot there. Have Pittsburgh at 156. We'll see where they go. Tampa going to be up next after them. Looks like the pick is being made currently for Pittsburgh. Seems like. Never mind, I lied. And there it is, Ja'Cory Brooks, the receiver out of Louisville. Transfer from Alabama. Been in college for a couple of years. Again, not a guy that I'm really taking a shot on this early. But again, there's a lot of variance. When you get to this point in day 3, everybody's draft boards are different. This is really just pick your poison here. It all has to do with what flavor of player you're looking for. And Ja'Cory Brooks is not the type of receiver that I love personally. I don't think he's a great separator. The age is a problem for me. I think that's some injury issues there as well. But Pittsburgh is a team that kind of missed on Roman Wilson last year with a pretty high pick. Went and traded for DK Metcalf, but still could use some more juice in that receiving room to take a flyer on mid-day 3. Not upset at that value at all. And now Tampa goes on the board. Looks like their GM is here awaiting the pick from them. Still currently about 20 picks out from our 6th round pick. Pick is not in yet. anyway, to recap, Tampa's actually had one of the better drafts, in my opinion, so far. First of all, they got Jalen Walker at 19 in the first round, which was one of the craziest slides to me. He's a top 6, 7-ish player in this draft class, in my opinion, especially for a team that has such a massive hole at inside linebacker like Tampa does. To get a guy who, even with me having him graded at edge, to get a guy who's had that inside linebacker experience and can kind of play that flex role is incredibly valuable. Um, and on top of that, you compound that with their hole at edge. That's a guy that could play both at an extremely high level and kind of solve two birds with one stone. In that defense, Jalen Walker, incredible value there, and it looks like they're going to pick up nobody because they didn't pick in time. And Los Angeles Chargers going to be on the clock, and they're going to take Jalen Lane, the receiver out of Virginia Tech. Jalen Lane is a guy that's really, really risen for me as a favorite as a day 3 receiver. One of the most explosive players in this draft class at all. He gets up to 0 to 60 in about 2 steps. He accelerates so quickly. I think he gets sinks his hips and stops really, really quick. For a guy his size at like 6'1", 6'2", not the biggest guy in the world. The hands are a serious problem. In contested situations, he's not going to catch really anything. The drop rate is concerning. You'll see him drop things in contested and open situations, so it's clearly a hands issue, but I think that's fixable. The athleticism he has is something you can't teach. And looks like Tampa's selection is going to come in here. It's going to be Za Frazier, corner out of UTSA, who I was talking about earlier. Extremely athletic, tested out of this world, very, very big frame, good sticky outside man corner, long arms, can work well in press. Kind of raw, but you're going to need to develop him up a little bit, but not a bad pick at all. I think he's a day 2 guy in the actual draft, so I think that's great value here. And the next pick is in for the Packers, finally getting some progress going here. Packers are going to take Ty Hamilton, the defensive lineman out of Ohio State, the guy who kind of played second fiddle to Tyleik Williams. Another really good run stopper on the interior. You're really seeing these guys go here on day 3. They're going to be your rotational, big body, early down run stoppers on the interior. So I like that value for Green Bay. I think I have a 6th round grade on him, but again, like I said, grades are so close here on day 3 that really doesn't. No such thing as a reach at this point. Going to be the 49ers back up for this pick at 160. Officially within 30 picks of being done with this draft, which is kind of crazy to say because Tennessee will be tapped out after 188. We do not have a 7th round pick. And the 49ers are going to select Teddy Buchanan, the linebacker out of California. Another one of the stars of that really stacked California defense this year. Teddy Buchanan is a really rangy, instinctive, run-stopping linebacker. One of the guys who I think has a pretty high ceiling as well for a developmental day 3 guy. I think with the kind of athleticism he has, not a guy that's very disciplined in coverage, not somebody you want in man coverage right now, but is somebody that can develop into a piece. I like the ceiling pick there, and kind of a crusher here from my guy Bill Sparks, drafting for the Giants. Takes Malachi Moore off the board. I didn't expect him to be there, but that's incredible value. Malachi Moore, I think, should be an early day 3 guy. Like I mentioned, so much experience. Only an average athlete, but so much experience, so disciplined in coverage. Very, very smart player. Can come down and contribute as a slot defender in the run. So I think that's a guy that should have gone probably about 20, 30 picks ago. I think that's great value for Cleveland right there to pick up a guy in the secondary where they desperately need help. And the New York Giants, not New York Giants, New York Jets, wrong New York team, will be back up here at 162. We'll see where they go with this pick. And I believe their GM is on the main live Draft Professor broadcast currently, my guy Anthony Russo. So hopefully this pick will be in somewhat quickly. And the pick comes in. Is going to be Upton Stout, the corner/safety out of Western Kentucky, who had a local visit with Tennessee. Guy who I see as a nickel corner. I think he's a really good one. One of the best run defenders in terms of secondary players in this draft. Is not scared at all to come up and hit somebody in the mouth. Small, another great Senior Bowl player as well. Smaller frame, only 5'9", but super scrappy. I mean, just an incredible competitor. So I think it's a great pick here for the Jets this late in the draft to go get Upton Stout. Secondary depth is getting a little bit scary now. You're seeing a lot of these guys go. There's starting to be a run on safeties and corners. Beginning to get worried about how thin that position is for Tennessee. But getting closer and closer slowly to this pick. Currently about 16 picks away from our next selection for Tennessee. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Can we see Malik Verdon fall another 16 picks? That's the question. Carolina's already taken a safety, so they're probably off the board. I don't think Philadelphia is really in the market for one. Washington, I believe, has already taken one. Houston just re-signed Jalen Petre, so he's probably they're probably off the board for a safety. Cleveland just took Malachi Moore. Philadelphia again. Cleveland again. Buffalo could probably be in the market for one. New England could be there. Maybe Dallas. They just lost Xavier Woods to Tennessee. And the Panthers, with their selection at 163, are going to take Simeon Barrow, defensive lineman, out of Miami. We're going to see this whole Miami defensive line get drafted a lot earlier than I thought they were going to be. The interior of that Ruben Bain and Tyler Barron edge group had a lot of pressure taken off of him because those edge rushers were so strong. But another guy that produced pretty well in that defense. Not a bad pick at all for Carolina, who needs to bolster that defensive line depth desperately. And now the Philadelphia Eagles will be up for 164. We'll see who they pick here. Have done a lot of moving around in this draft. They traded up, they traded down. Been working the phone lines pretty heavily. I will say LaQuint Allen still being here because the Texans omitted their pick when they were having a pick for him. He is back on the board. LaQuint Allen still being here this late is kind of a shocker to me. Tennessee has been adamant about wanting a power back, but I mean a guy that talented at running back falling this far is kind of hard for me to believe. Jaden Blue, the running back out of Texas, is still here. Also kind of difficult for me to believe. That's my running back 6 and 7 right there. Both still on the board. I kind of would like to take Jaquindon Jackson anyway because I think he's more realistic. But we will see who the Eagles go here. And it's a Georgia player. Massive shocker there. It's going to be Smale Munden, the linebacker converted safety out of Georgia, who I think is a steal at this point. I believe he's my linebacker 5. Very, very rangy, great in coverage. Obviously, coming from converting to safety. And Smale Munden will continue the theme of Georgia players on that Philadelphia defense. Going to be a nice passing down addition to that linebacker room. And now the Washington Commanders will be up at 165. We'll see where they go. I believe they are one of the admins today, so this pick should be in soon. Slowly getting closer and closer to round 6, where Tennessee will finally get to make 2 selections. And Washington makes a really fun one here. Somebody I love, Chase Lunt, the offensive tackle out of UConn. Chase Lunt has been kind of a roller coaster. You see him, like, at one point he's talked about as a day 2 guy. Now he's kind of fallen back down to a mid to late day 3 guy. I still have him in that like late day 2, early day 3 range because I love tackles that get out in space. And as a converted tight end, I think Chase Lunt is one of the best movers I've ever watched at tackle. Some major power concerns. The anchor is concerning. I don't think he's the best run blocker in the world. But when it comes to reach blocks and getting out in space, getting to the second level blocking guys, my kind of summarized scouting report for Chase Lunt for this entire cycle has been he gets to the second level if somebody lit his ass on fire. I mean, he gets there in a hurry. Chase Lunt explodes out of his stance. He tracks defenders in space like a DB. I mean, he's one of the best I've ever watched in terms of hunting guys down in space. And now, Houston, back up on the clock, has been notorious for missing their picks so far. We will see where they end up with this pick, and then it is right back to Cleveland, then back to Philadelphia, then right back to Cleveland. We'll see Buffalo make their first pick in quite a while after they made that splash trade up for Ty Felton. And then Tennessee is getting on the short list for where they will pick. Getting closer. It's been a long one since our last pick, but for everyone bearing with, I appreciate it. We are getting closer. See if we can actually get a Houston pick on time for once. That would be great. Not looking like it, unfortunately. And for anyone wondering about this pick 167 was originally Tennessee's. I traded just pick 167 and quarterback Will Levis to Cleveland for pick 104 and pick 179. So moving back a little bit in the 5th round to the early 6th to take Xavier Restrepo was our pick at 104, adding another valuable receiver to that room. I believe that was one of my favorite trades so far in this exercise that we've done. And for anyone wondering why we don't have 178, which was originally our pick, that pick was traded to the Seahawks when we traded pick 35 and pick 178 for picks 52 and 82. Moved back in the second to pick up a second and a third. Stand by all those trades. You know, it sucks to not have some of these day 3 picks. You'd like to take some more flyers on some depth guys. But at the end of the day, if somebody like Gelati falls and I wanted to make a move like that, I think it was important to do. And if we can get Houston's pick in here, I believe the rest of these GMs are here. So if we can get through there, and they have officially been skipped. So the Browns are back on the clock. We will see who my guy Bill Sparks picks here. And it's going to be Carson Vinson, the offensive tackle out of Alabama A&M. A guy I got to interview at the Senior Bowl about took my hand off when I shook his hand. Freakishly large human. Again, somebody much like Jackson Slater, who came from a small school, really made a name for themselves in Mobile with a great Senior Bowl week. I liked his performance in Mobile better than I liked his tape. So that's why he's a little bit lower for me. But I think this is a guy that's got a very, very long frame, a lot of power, pretty raw. Somebody you need to develop up, but somebody who I think has potential to be a starting caliber tackle in the league. And that's never a bad pick this late in the draft. And it looks like Houston is going to get re-picked with LaQuint Allen, the running back out of Syracuse, who I've already talked about, as their next admin pick because they continue to miss all of their picks today. And now Cleveland, right back on the clock. Philadelphia, right back on the clock. We will see who they select here. If we can get a pick from Philadelphia, it'll bounce right back to Cleveland, who I imagine has their pick ready, considering they just made a selection. And then we are officially into the comp picks of round 5. And if we can drag ourselves through those slowly, we will officially be in round 6. And Jaden Blue, the guy I just mentioned, the running back out of Texas, finally goes off the board at 168. More awesome value for Philadelphia. Jaden Blue is a 4.2 athlete on tape. Made the fast guys look slow. Also one of the best receivers in this draft class. I think could play slot receiver in the NFL and find success at that level, I believe. And to give it, I mean, he's a late 3rd round grade for me, so to get him at the very end of the 5th round, I think that's pretty crazy. Extremely elusive in the open field. The contact balance isn't really there. The vision isn't really there. But you're taking a flyer on this guy for the athleticism, the athletic traits, somebody who can contribute. in the past game. And now the pick for Cleveland is in, and it will be J.J. Pegues, the defensive tackle and fullback for Cleveland. Adding in, you don't know which position he'll play. I didn't love his defensive line tape all that much. I don't think he really provides anything either as a run defender or a pass rusher at the NFL level. But this guy could be a really fun fullback to use as kind of like an H-back, gadget type role. And now, oh my goodness, picks are flying in. I looked over for 1 second. Buffalo has taken Fadil Diggs, the edge out of Syracuse. He's a guy I absolutely love. I have a 4th-round grade on him. Fadil Diggs, for a guy this late, is to get with his kind of bend and his speed around the edge. He's got a great dip and rip. Not a good run defender in the slightest. This is a guy you only want on the field on passing downs, but he has a lot of pass rushing juice for somebody you're getting in round 5. So, love that pick for Buffalo, adding some talent into that edge room, staying as a local guy. Clay Webb going to New England, adding more and more and more juice. They've added so much help to this offensive line. They added the center/guard out of Jacksonville State, Clay Webb, another guy from a small school who had a great Senior Bowl week. Very, very strong player. Mobility is an issue, but that's why you have him on the inside. That's why I see him more as a guard rather than a center. And now Dallas will be up. At 172. We'll see where they go with this pick. Currently 7 picks away from 179. We will see what happens there. Indianapolis coming back up. And they will take Sebastian Castro, the safety out of Iowa. Castro was another Senior Bowl guy. Not my favorite, just because I think the athleticism is going to be such a limiter. I think he probably put up a historically low RAS. It was in the 2s or the 3s. So I think it's going to be hard to find success at that level, even with how smart of a player he is. I struggle to see him succeed at the next level because I just don't think he's an NFL level athlete. But another guy who I thought was pretty good at the Senior Bowl, maybe you give him a shot at nickel corner if you think he can find some success there. Colts are back up on the clock here at 173. We'll see where they go. I believe they were trying to trade out of this pick, if I remember correctly. Not too long ago, they were working the phone lines. I would really just love to get to our pick here at 179, if possible. And the Colts ended up with quite a bit of picks on day 3 here. I feel like I've seen them pick a lot today. And the Colts will take Marcus Yarns, the running back out of Delaware, another Senior Bowl guy. I feel like we're saying that almost every pick now. And Marcus Yarns is a guy that's very, very small. I worry about his size at the NFL level, but he's very, very athletic, a great receiver. kind of in the same vein as Scatabo, where I think his receiving skill set is awesome. He's got a very flushed out route tree, good separator, nice hands, but he's such a disaster in pass protection that I don't know that you're going to be able to utilize that skill set. But a guy that's not, you know, not the best vision, not an every down runner, but he's probably going to get you one or two like home runs every once in a while, just because of that top end athleticism, that top end speed. And now the Dallas Cowboys back up on the clock, one pick later. We will see where they go with this pick. Currently sitting at 5 picks away from our selection. All right. And they will take Jake Majors, staying in Texas, the center out of Texas. Will stay in Dallas. Kind of the only other center that's been talked about outside of Jared Wilson in this class. Not a very good athlete, which is why I'm a little bit lower on him, but very technically sound, very high floor player. I think that's a solid pick here at the end of round 5 for Dallas. And Seattle will be back up on the clock at 175. See if we can actually get this pick in for them. Then the Colts will be back up. Then the Bills and the Seahawks again. And then we are finally back on the clock. And I'm hoping Malik Verdon will be the selection here. I don't see any of these teams in front of me sniping him. It looks like Tennessee will get away with their guy this late, which is incredible value. And then I plan to go running back at 188 to round out this draft. I will hit a quick recap. And then currently awaiting this pick here. Still awaiting the Seahawks pick. Not looking like it's going to come in anytime soon. Probably looking at a skip here. Person has not been active all that often. And we will bounce right back to them in 3 picks, unfortunately. Looks like the Colts pick will be in any second now. And I believe we're going to have a trade here. Late day 3 trade for anybody still in here. Andy, nice to see you in here again. Yeah, Baron Sorrell. The edge room, it feels like we had a crazy edge rush, or run on edges in like mid day 2. And then like nothing since. Like Fidel Diggs falling all the way to 170 was crazy. Would really, really love to make this pick at 179 if we could just get some admin picks and get this draft moving, to be honest with you. It's been a slow one today. I'll be honest with you, fellas. Just not as many people in here, unfortunately, as we had in day 1 and day 2, which is understandable. Finally, Seattle selection coming. It's going to be Jordan James, the running back out of Oregon, who's probably not a guy that I would draft in this running back class, to be honest with you. I just think, he's a very, very technically sound running back. I think he runs a lot of power, runs low behind his pads, low center of gravity, but he's just not an NFL level athlete, in my opinion. And the Bills, who I guess the Colts got skipped as well. I don't know what's happening anymore, fellas. I'm just announcing the picks here. Looks like the Bills get Kobe King, linebacker at Penn State, who I think is a great value at this point. I think Kobe King is probably not a guy you want on passing downs almost ever. He's kind of a liability in pass protection or pass coverage, excuse me. But Kobe King is one of the best linebackers in this class, and that I've watched in recent memory as far as shedding blocks goes. Very, very rare to see college linebackers be able to shed blocks at a high level anymore. But Kobe King is somebody that still does it extremely well. So I think that is a great pick at that point for them. Jalen Conyers, who I believe is the pick 2. Yeah, Indianapolis, that is solidified now. That pick has been put in. Conyers is another guy who I have a little bit later, but I think is one of the few tight ends in this class with true, like, good athleticism. He's in a really big 265-pound frame, a really, rare, true inline wide tight end frame. Not a very good separator at that point, not a very good blocker. You're drafting this guy for pure traits at the end of the day. But I don't hate the selection for a team like Indianapolis, who has a hole at tight end. Maybe you expect that guy to develop into something as years go on. And as soon as Seattle turns in this pick, Tennessee is finally back on the clock, and we will be taking Malik Verdon, the safety out of Iowa State, which I believe is a home run at this point. I would have taken this guy, borderline top 100. The Raiders just put in a pick 6 picks ahead of time. I don't know what's happening anymore. They definitely can't do that. We've gone off the rails here, folks. I'll go ahead and be honest with you. I mean, Kamir Dyke is a great pick at this point, but I don't. You still pick 178. You can't pick at 180. And there we go. The pick has been submitted. Titans select at pick 1. That should be 179, not 180. And at pick 179 in this draft, we get Malik Verdon, the safety out of Iowa State, who I have comped to Jamal Adams throughout most of this draft process. I think he fills the need for a box safety in Tennessee extremely well. You've got some injury red flags. I understand that, but this guy is a unreal athlete at a linebacker frame at 6'4", 225, 230. So rangy, flies around the field, great ball skills, solid in coverage, not the best coverage guy in the world, but you're getting to play near the line of scrimmage. Super quick trigger in the run game, comes downhill and hits like a freight train. If you can get this guy to stay healthy, I believe he has starting potential as a box safety. Something Tennessee has really desperately needed. They haven't had a starting box safety since Kenny Vaccaro probably was their last staple as a box safety. You've kind of had a revolving door since then. So you hope that Malik Verdon is your guy for the future here. And now we move on to pick 188, which I expect to be a running back. I don't expect it will be a running back since I'm the only one making picks today. There's a lot of good running back talent on the board still. I'm probably looking at Jaquin Jackson because Tennessee really needs a bruiser. Kyle Monungai is still here. I think that's a guy that fits the bill extremely well also. Vernon Broughton just tried to get selected at 181, and he was taken back in the top 100. So, again, folks, we're trying to bear with us. Some production issues today. I don't really know what to tell you at this point. But still waiting at 188. Let's see what running backs are on the board here. Devin Neal, like you said, Andy, that's a shock to me, but definitely too close to what Tyjae Spears provides for Tennessee for me to take him. Brashard Smith is another guy that I think is very, very surprising that he's still here. I love Brashard Smith. Converted to slot receiver, too, running back, extremely elusive, great athlete, great pass catcher, the best spin move in this class. Taj Brooks is another guy I really like. Kyle Monungai, like I already mentioned, fits exactly what Tennessee is looking for in a running back. So to me, Ollie Gordon still being here is intriguing. Um, for me, this pick is between Ollie Gordon, Kyle Monangai, and Jaquindon Jackson. Um, all three very big body between the tackles, power rushers who are really going to run low to the ground, low center of gravity, be bruising running backs. All three are great in pass protection. Um, so we will see if any of those running backs get taken before pick 188. If not, we are to decide between the three. Kyle Monangai feels like the one that sticks out of that group to me. I like Ollie Gordon, but I don't think he runs with quite as much power um, as the other two we're talking about here. Jaquindon Jackson has been one of my guys for a while. I'm still kind of tempted to take him just because I love him so much. I think he'd be a great fit for what they're trying to do in Tennessee. Ollie Gordon is another guy who's been talked about for Tennessee a lot. Kind of a fall from grace after the 2023 season. Still a bruising running back who's great in pass protection. Wants to take somebody's jaw off when hitting like a blitzing linebacker or whoever it may be. So all three great options at 188. We'll see if anybody gets taken before then. But we will select a running back here at 188, recap this draft, and get everybody out of here. Made better time than I thought. Better time than it felt like, that's for sure. This felt like it dragged on and on. So we'll see if we can wrap up these next 8 picks somewhat soon. All right. Pick is tweeted out. And Chargers pick still not in. Looks like they've been skipped. Looks like the Jaguars will be selecting Devin Neal here. It seems like he'll finally go. Probably fell way too far. And Devin Neal is the selection here. So Devin Neal was another guy that kind of fell from grace after 2023. I think the 2023 tape is still really fun, but in between 23 and 24, you saw them kind of try to pack on too much muscle onto that frame, and it really, really hurt the athleticism. So you really saw like a lack of burst and a lack of long speed. He really got tracked down from behind a lot, but he's still extremely elusive in the open field. Still has really good vision. Contributor in the pass game, both in pass protection and as a pass catcher. I think Devin Neal is probably a guy we see go in the in early day 3, a lot earlier than this. And now the next pick is Jackson Hawes, the tight end out of Georgia Tech. One of my favorite guys in this class. Not somebody you really ever want catching passes, but he is an honorary offensive lineman. Jackson Hawes it will down block a 5 tech into the Gatorade coolers. I mean, Jackson Hawes is such a fun player. He's going to play in the league for 15 years. Just because the job he does, it's thankless. Nobody cares about the blocking tight ends, but Jackson Hawes is as good of a blocking tight end as there is. So this guy's going to come in and be your tight end 2 and 12 personnel and really just live for at least a decade in the league on just that role. And now as we go on to the Saints, only 5 more teams ahead of us here before we take a running back. And honestly, again, assuming all 3 of these guys fall here, I really don't know who I like the best out of this group. It's a very, very tight-knit group. I have very similar grades on all of them. Kyle Monangai still, he feels like the leader to me, but that's probably who I'll end up going with as it gets down to it. But Ollie Gordon has a strong case as well. this Saints pick on the board. Slowly moving along. Not looking like we're going to get this pick in for the Saints here. Saints have not been here all day, so. Steelers on the clock. We'll see what their pick is here at 185. Steelers, Jets, and Vikings, all people who are active right now. So we should have all three of these picks come in. And then I can make my running back selection, and we will recap this draft and get everybody out of here pretty soon. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how this draft turned out. I mean, I think you didn't hit quite as many positions on day 3 as you would have wanted to, because I felt like I needed to make a move to trade up. But you addressed a lot of needs, and you got a lot of good players. So I think overall extremely happy with this draft. I think you put a lot of great pieces around Cam Ward to have success in his rookie year. If we can move on a little bit and get through these next 5 picks, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm not sure I've ever been more thankful to not have a 7th round pick. I'll tell you what. I'm not sure I could bear another 70 picks of this. And the Saints finally show up. Better late than never. And they take Riley Mills, the lineman, out of Notre Dame, who I am halfway thinking is gone. But if not, Riley Mills goes. That's probably one of the bigger steals of this draft, actually. Riley Mills is a defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Got a lot of pass rushing upside for them. Very, very important part of that Notre Dame front that had an awesome defense. Took them all the way to the national championship this past year. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins out of Georgia, who was one of the best testers at this defensive tackle group. Extremely athletic. Going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 185. The New York Jets. Oh, picks are flying in now, finally. New York Jets select QB Will Howard out of Ohio State. Finally see Will Howard, another QB, go off the board. Kind of surprised to see him before Tyler Shuck, to be honest with you. But Will Howard goes off the board to be backup for Justin Fields as a contingency plan for QB in New York. And now the Vikings are on the board, and we will turn in our last pick. And it is Trevor Etienne. I did get sniped with one of my running back options. Trevor Etienne goes to the Vikings at 187. And at 188, Tennessee Titans will turn in their last pick of this draft. And it will be Kyle Monangai. So, with that pick, the Titans will wrap up their 2025 Draft Professor Epic Mock 25 draft. And as soon as this card officially gets turned in on the spreadsheet, we will see and recap this overall draft. Finally, so starting at 1, the 101, Tennessee takes their franchise quarterback in Cam Ward. Surprises absolutely nobody. It's the worst kept secret in the NFL. Ward is their guy. They've been in love with Ward since the combine interview, since they got him on the whiteboard. And take him 101, no surprise there. Next pick. At 35 was our next pick. We traded down with Seattle Seahawks, picked up 52 and 82. At 52, we take Princely Uman-Mielen, the edge, out of Ole Miss. The speedy, bendy edge rusher around the edge with a lethal inside spin. Not the best runner in the world, but he comes in and adds some much-needed pass rushing juice. to this edge group. And then at pick 82, we have our darling Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Gets sniped 4 picks right before us, which was deeply upsetting. But we rebound with Torrey Horton, the receiver out of Colorado State, to come in and play your X. 6'2", lanky, long frame, great athlete. One of the best at the catch point in this class. So you get Cam Ward a big, lanky target to put at your X receiver. And Calvin Ridley gets to officially solidify that Z role in the offense. And here, the big splash trade up was back up to 90 to take Ashton Gelati, the edge rusher out of Louisville. Extremely powerful, violent edge rusher, great run defender, awesome at converting speed to power. Going to be the guy to kind of mix it up opposite of Princely Umaña and bring some power to that edge room. And then the next picks were 104, top of the 4th round, where we take Xavier Restrepo, the receiver out of Miami. You pair him back up with Cam Ward, reignite that connection. Xavier Restrepo is going to play the slot role in that offense. People worried about the testing. I'm not. You're not drafting him for the speed. He's great against zone. Good separator, solid separator. Awesome at the catch point. Awesome ball tracking. Just a very, very high floor slot receiver. Next pick at 120 is LSU's Miles Frazier, the guard who is going to be the heir to the throne at right guard after Kevin Zeitler leaves after this year. Incredible mover, big frame, violent run blocker, very, very technically sound in pass protection. Going to be a long-time starter in this league, in my opinion. Then we had the big stretch of not picking again until 179, where we take Iowa State's Malik Verdon at safety to fill that hole at box safety opposite of our Monty Hooker. That's kind of been a revolving door in recent years for Tennessee. Malik Verdon got some injury concerns, but an elite athlete, massive frame, super rangy, quick trigger in the run game, going to get downhill and knock somebody's lights out in a hurry. And then the last pick of the draft at pick 188, Tennessee selects Kyle Monungai, the running back out of Rutgers. Rounding out this draft with their big body running back, they've been clear. They want one of these guys come in. Adds a lot of juice as a pass protector, something Tennessee desperately needs. A lot of size as a running back, very violent runner, good vision. Not the best athlete in the world, but he does the dirty work. Another guy that's going to be in the league for just a decade. Very, very solid player who does the work in the shadows. Goes underappreciated, but it's going to be a contributor to Tennessee for a long time. And with that, there's still 70 picks left in this draft, but I will let you guys go and tune into the main Draft Professor broadcast because the Titans draft is over for this. So, for everybody who watched this whole thing, I think we cooked. The whole thing will be on Twitter in a recap. And as the Titans officially wrap up their Epic Mock 2025 mock draft, I am officially signing off as a GM. See you guys.